Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio, of course, coming to you here on this Monday, September 23rd from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. Jake's at the wheel, keeping us on the track. Jim Coyle with you here as always. Lots to talk about. Of course, Indiana gets underway, on track with a win over the weekend as they push to 3-1 on the season with a 38-3 win over UConn at Memorial Stadium. IU soccer, another win, sandwiched a couple of wins around that IU football victory as they just one Big Ten win for them. The women hit the Big Ten trail twice. Archie Miller was on BTN Tailgate. We'll hear from him as well as some players. Lots of IU football players to talk about as well. A little basketball recruiting news to get to. On the show today, the great voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, will join me as he does each and every Monday here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We'll also talk with Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier, get caught up on everything that's going on. And that's plenty. Hope you had a great weekend. It was a good one weather-wise, man. The rain held off until basically today, last night, so that's perfect. Overnight, man, you can't ask for anything better than for rain to come overnight while nothing's going on a Sunday night, no less than that. So you've had the entire weekend. So, and I got to give a shout-out to the crowd. A bigger crowd than I expected for UConn, man. I got to say, I was pleasantly surprised. The only disappointment was with the students. They need to be chastised a little bit. They have been pulling their weight up until now, and disappointing output for the students at that game. The student section was about half full the entire time. If it hadn't been for that, this would have been a really good crowd. So, boo on the students this past weekend. You didn't do a good job. So get in there and support that team. The Hoosiers heading to Michigan State up in East Lansing this week. We'll talk about that as well. So lots to get to on this program here on this Monday as we get started. Basketball is getting increasingly closer. Next week, IU Basketball Holders Media Day will be out there on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then the following week, we're headed to Chicago for Big Ten Media Day. And then later in that week is Hoosier Hysteria. So, man, it's all just right around the corner, and it's all just going to come crashing down at the same time. Boom, bam. I think Indiana's on a bye that week, thank goodness. Yeah, football. So we don't have to worry about missing a road game as we have so many times in the past and having to worry about missing Hoosier Hysteria. We can cover that without worry. So looking forward to that. But a good win for the Hoosiers on Saturday on the football field as they knock off UConn 38-3. Peyton Ramsey was Peyton Ramsey in that running gun style offense. Pretty good stats. He was 23 of 27. Should I get that pulled up? Looking at that. 23 of 27, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns. Spread the love out quite a bit. Ty Freifogel, he had 5 catches along with Peyton Hendershot. Now, Peyton Hendershot has been getting a ton of targets. Peyton Hendershot has caught more passes already this season than he has in he's already reached a career high, basically. He had 5 catches last week, and I think this past week, and I think he had 5 last week. The tight end gets a lot of targets, especially with Peyton Ramsey as the quarterback. We'll talk to Don Fischer later today about the upcoming visit to East Lansing, but talk about this past week. One absolute sad note is the Hoosiers look to have lost Coy Cronk, left tackle, with an apparent possible ankle injury. That's not been made official yet, but either way, even Coach Allen in the post-game presser said that it didn't look good. And it doesn't. Whenever you get carted off the field, it's simply just doesn't look good. They're going to have to find a way to not only replace an offensive lineman, but replace a veteran offensive lineman, one that brings a ton of leadership because he's a co-captain. So you're losing a lot there. You're not going to lose his leadership off the field because he'll be there. But as far as on the field, that's big for a team that has had great struggles in that area on the offensive line. It's where they've struggled this season. As a matter of fact, Peyton Ramsey talked about losing Coy Cronk and what that means.
What was Coy's message when he's in the stretcher there, ready to, after he got hurt, and what was he telling you guys?
Yeah, I mean, Coy, it's sad. It's sad to see, obviously, but he's just such a hardworking guy. I didn't obviously get the chance to talk to him individually, but just his leadership, just that kind of persona that he has, the toughness piece. I think it kind of spread throughout the whole team when we all saw him, going off the field.
That was quarterback Peyton Ramsey talking about the losing someone like Coy Crunk. And it's devastating to this team because, like I said, they're pretty thin in that area, but they're really thin with someone that is he's not a fifth year, he's a fourth year senior. But thank goodness for Coy Crunk in the fact that he can come back because this happened in the fourth game. Had this happened one game later, his season, his career would be over. But because this happened in the fourth game, he can now appeal for a redshirt season, which he will get if he wants, and come back for a fifth season next year. Now, that would be a gigantic boost for Indiana because someone's going to be getting experience in his stead this season. So next year, that gives you two experienced linemen right off the bat. So if you want to look for a silver lining, that would be it. But, man, what a loss for him. We also have Jake, who'd you say this was?
Nick Westbrook.
Nick Westbrook, who also had a great day. We'll hear from Nick later about his day and about the game, but he talked about Coy Crunk as well. Let's hear what he had to say.
Nick, when you see a guy like Coy Crunk that you've been with for so long go down, and how does that impact you as a team?
We just rally behind it. It sucks because we know how much he loves his team and how much he's put into, to be a leader on this team. It just really hurt, but at that point now we're playing for him, and so this season goes out to him now. And, when we came in at halftime, he was right there, casted up in the boot, just in the locker room, dapping everybody up because he knew, it's way bigger than just him. And so he's like, I'm just here for the team. And he's going to lead, in a different role now.
What did he say when he was on the stretcher there? He was looking very animated talking.
Yeah, he was just saying, keep fighting, boys, fight for me, just get this win and we'll be good.
What does that do to your mentality, the team's mentality, when you have a guy go down like that, but he's telling you to keep fighting for him?
It's huge. It makes it, you have way more to play for. And that's kind of what Coach talked about. Coach DeBoer and Coach Allen both talked about it before the game to us is think about who you have back home that you're playing for because you play way harder and you have a lot more passion. You fight a lot harder when it's not just about you. And so when he went down, it just took that to a whole nother level from where we already had going into the start of the game.
There's Nick Westbrook, fifth-year wide receiver. He knows what it's like to have to go through a season-ending injury. He's been through it. He's a fifth-year guy because of that, because he had to deal with losing an entire season. He got hurt in the first game when his injury came a couple years ago. It's never good or never easy, but it certainly helps. Coy Crunk got the game ball afterwards, as a matter of fact. Simply because of the leadership he showed while injured. The dude's still injured. He's still leading. He's still leading with a boot on his foot from the sidelines, from the locker room. Moments after being injured. That's what they're losing on the field there. So salute to Coy Crunk, but they're going to get another coach is what they're going to have this season. They're going to lose a player and gain a coach. Man, that's going to be valuable to them next season, I have to say. But right now we're worried about this season. And we're going into a game where this offensive line is probably going to be at its most important of the season because Ohio State was the game they're probably not winning no matter what. Let's be honest. Ohio State is one of the best teams in the country. So they're not going to win that game. I truly believe they have a shot at beating Michigan State. Now, Michigan State looked a lot better this past week offensively. That's one of the reasons I thought Indiana could beat them. But I also think they could beat them if Michael Penix is available because that is an area where Michigan State really struggles. But then again, you've got to have time to throw that ball. And Michigan State's got a pretty talented defensive line. It's going to be a tough one, but looking forward to the opportunity that Indiana has. The last time they traveled to East Lansing, they gave them all they wanted. I think they lost by a single score with the ball driving at the end of the game. But that's an opportunity that Indiana has. This team, as funny as this sounds, this team still has an opportunity to win 7 games. I think that they legitimately have a shot at Michigan State, although this is going to be difficult. Michigan State's playing a lot better offensively right now, but Indiana's played a little bit better defensively. I mean, I don't want to look down the road and start counting games, but I think Indiana has a chance to beat Maryland, has a chance to beat Northwestern. I think they have a chance to beat Purdue. I think they have a chance to beat Nebraska. Depending on how this offense is able to morph itself. If Michael Penix is able to come back. That's all a big if. And Michigan State doesn't know who they're preparing for, Michael Penix or Peyton Ramsey. I'm sure they'd rather see Peyton Ramsey because that keeps the game compact for them, which is where they like it. Because that's just treating it like a running game where they excel at stopping. Number 2 rush defense in the United States. Man, we got a lot coming up on the program today. The great voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, is going to join us. We'll talk about what happened over the weekend and what's coming up. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier as well. We've got a lot of visits that were going on. I think Hassan Diarra, Bryce Hopkins may have been in town. Archie Miller, he was on the BTN tailgate. We'll hear from him later as well. Coming up next, we got a reboot with the Todd Father, Todd Leary. Stay tuned. Lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Baby, won't you understand that your wish is not to me? What can I do to make my baby?
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Cole.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Oh, man. He's going to get tired of that.
I am demanding new music. Making my first demand.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. That means one and only thing. The Todd Father, Todd Leary, is with us. Todd, how are you, brother?
Man, I'm good. How are you today?
Can't complain. It's a little warm for September. I'm shocked.
If you're complaining about the heat, you're talking to the wrong person, because I'll take it this warm all year long.
No, I'm not complaining. Not complaining at all. Just surprised. But yeah, everybody's out playing golf yesterday. It's still a wonderful weather. People getting out.
Awesome. It's awesome. I love it.
Big things going on this weekend. I want to get to this first, Todd. Your good friend, former good friend, teammate Eric Anderson, going into the Indiana Athletics Hall of Fame tonight, man. Not a better, more worthier candidate than the Big E.
Yep, no, that's awesome for him. I wish obviously we all do that he could be here to enjoy that and let people love on him a little bit. He was so good at making everybody else feel better and always had that smile on his face. And he just was one of those people that it was tough to be in a bad mood when you were around him. And so he just is it's unfortunate for all of us that he's not here. I know he's in a better place, but it's just super unfortunate that he can't be here so he could understand how much people appreciated him.
Yeah, he seems like he was one of the most beloved teammates, definitely on that group that came through there. But he had a unique way of seems to bond a bunch of different types of personalities together, and that team had a ton of different personalities.
Yeah, no doubt about that. He, that was kind of one of the things. I mean, he was from Chicago, and I think he went to a Catholic school growing up in high school, and then coming to IU. I mean, it was just kind of funny. Like there was no race or color or position differences or playing time issues or anything with Eric. I mean, everybody was just whoever they were to him. He got along with everyone, and it was kind of that lead by example type thing where you wanted to be like Eric, and you wanted to do the stuff that he did. You wanted people to like you like they liked Eric, and so. He was just he was kind of that happy-go-lucky type guy, but also I know he and I had talked about when his dad had passed away, and he could get very serious, but he always figured out a way to ask about you or ask about your family or figure out a way to spin the conversation back on you, and that's something that I hope I try to emulate a little bit, and he gets the credit for that because. He was so good at it, and it just made people feel better when they were around him, and that's what I miss about him the most, and I think the teammates and people that he was around a lot miss about him the most.
And like I said, I talked about the different types of personalities. I mean, you seem like you were very conservative at that time, and then you got somebody like Jamal Meeks, who is Jamal, man. Jamal's just Jamal. And then you got a Pat Graham and so many different types of personalities, but they all worked in concert together. How is that possible? Is that because you had someone like Eric?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of different factors that go into that. It starts with Coach Knight. I mean, he kind of demanded that. And so, we knew what was expected. And then it came from the leaders and the older guys as you came in. I mean, I know we've discussed many times that we had 7 guys in our freshman recruiting class coming in. And so we relied heavily, even though maybe you wouldn't look at the stats today and think that the older players were as valuable to us as they were, but I mean, they were the reason why we ended up being as good as we were. And, they brought down the traditions that they had learned when they came in as freshmen, and the older guys, which Eric was only 1 year older than us when we came in, but he played a lot and won freshman of the year in the Big Ten. And so he was a big part, obviously, of those teams. And so he was a big part of when we came in of getting us all together and on the same page. And Jamal was a huge part of that also. I mean, I think I've told you before, Jamal made the statement right when we all got there that, we're all going to fight and battle and try to kill each other out on the floor. But the second we come back in the locker room, we're all buddies and teammates. I don't care if you were punching each other in the face out on the court. and truly that happened a lot. I mean, we had a lot of fights, maybe not punching each other in the face, but we had a lot of fights out on the court because that's how hard they wanted us to battle. And that's how hard we did battle. But then we come in the locker room, and Jamal was great about forcing us to leave it on the court. And when we came back in there, we were all a brotherhood and teammates. And, Eric sat on one side of me in the locker room and Jamal sat on the other. And so I had the jokesters and everybody right around me all the time, which for me, I was very fortunate in that regard. I had, coming into the locker room, I had a lot of good leadership around me, and I'll never forget that for those guys. And everybody, kind of depending on where you sit in the locker room and who you spend a lot of time with, it changes your experience of what you had when you were there. I mean, Jamal and Eric were very important to me because they sat right next to me in the locker room, and they told me a lot of stuff. A lot of it was honest and not, BS. And, you don't forget guys for stuff like that. And so, Eric was important to me, even though a lot of it was, probably unspoken and unsaid. Between the two of us, we knew it. And, that's why when, he passed away, it was emotional because I feel like it's something I didn't do in my life that I didn't ever take the time to go tell him how important he was to me. And, that's just something you regret, and hopefully you learn from, and don't let that happen again to other people in your life. I'm turning this into a real serious show, aren't I?
Hey man, it's good stuff, brother. This is what you call quality content. This is quality. Any surprise that Jamal Meeks is a coach today?
No, definitely not. I mean, he either should have been like a MMA fighter, or he should have been a hype man for some rapper, or he should be a coach, because I mean, this dude can get you excited and going, and he just has that ability and that quality. And it's Jamal is just one of those fun people to be around. And I'm telling you, if you he made it, this is the difference. I mean, he and I were battling for position and playing time all the time on the court. I mean, obviously in stature, I weighed 175 pounds when I got to IU, and Jamal weighed about 220 or 30. At least that's what he wrote down on the weight chart. He really weighed about 245, but
well, that's where the Fat Boy Fit Club came
he would
from,
battle
man.
and beat the crap out of me out on the court. But when we came back in, I mean, he was the first one to give me a hug and say, keep battling, you're doing great, and all that. And so, like I said, you just don't forget that stuff about people. And when you're at that point in your life at 18, 19, 20 years old, and you're impressionable, and you get a guy like that that's willing to take the time out to pick you up a little bit in a time when you need it. You just don't forget that stuff. And Jamal was that for me also.
He's got the Fat Boy Fit Club going, if you paid attention on Facebook.
He's got that. He fits all that category. He's Fat Boy Fit.
He's such a character. I love those things. They last about 30 seconds, but man, it's just like every day it's just a little chuckle. It gives you a nice little chuckle every day.
He is the funny part is he used to come in. I swear my blood alcohol content would go up in college just because I would sit next to him in the locker room. When he would come in, he would smell like a brewery in there half the time. And I swear, just rubbing off on him in sweat, my blood alcohol content went up. So I've never let him live that down. He's just sweating out those beers right now from college. I can assure you that.
And all this fun, and what's that made for a fun team? It sounds like it made for a loose team, but more importantly, it made for a together team.
Yeah, we still went our separate directions. I mean, Damon didn't hang out with a lot of guys outside of basketball, and Alan and Greg Graham and those guys had joined a fraternity, and so they had to do a lot of stuff with their fraternities. I mean, we all had our own lives also, but when we needed something, when something was going down, we were all there, and we knew, it's like your family now. Your family is extremely loyal to you. Well, you may not spend every waking moment with them. They're still loyal to you to the death. And that's the way I felt like we were as a team. And that's kind of what I think as an IU fan, we're rooting for this team and for all of Archie's teams. I want there to be those Eric Andersons and Jamals in the locker room. I'm not saying there aren't. I'm just saying we want to be able to visibly tell that and see that. And I think they're getting to that point, and I think the people they're recruiting will get them closer to that point.
That was my next question, a little good cop, bad cop, with me being the bad. This team has really been lacking that kind of leadership and camaraderie, it looks. I mean, which I can't speak because I'm not inside the locker room, but from outside appearances, they have fun together. They show the videos and all that stuff, but there's more to that, this bond that you just talked about so much that was evident, that on-court leadership just seems like it hasn't been there.
Yeah. It does seem that way. I mean, I kind of have to say it the same way you do and preface it by saying I'm not in the locker room. And unless you are, you're really just kind of speculating based on what the result is we see out on the court. But I think there needs to be more of that. I love seeing, social media is different nowadays. You see the videos of those guys at the football games together and stuff like that. And that's the kind of stuff you want to see. That's the kind of stuff that makes me feel better. I mean, I feel a lot better about that than what you might guess, because I like to see those guys like being together. They like to hang out together. When you were here, I know we listened to Archie Miller talk here, and when he talked about Romeo Langford coming back to Bloomington to work out and sleeping on Rob Finney's couch, I mean, that to me, that's great inside knowledge. That's great team togetherness that I'm not sure we thought was there. And so I love to hear that is the case. And that is something that's taking place and going on. I mean, you and I both know Romeo could have bought out the hotel floor if he wanted to, but he's choosing to hang out with his buddies and teammates. And that's a bond that they created. I'm not sure you and I would have thought they had that togetherness just based on what we saw out on the court. But I'm glad to hear that structure is there and that they do have that.
I know you have better things to do than to follow the everyday recruiting, but right now, obviously, Archie's got another scholarship to fill. But to me, the roster is unbalanced because they are severely lacking a big man for going forward, because these guys, they're coming in next year. So we're looking at the 2020 class, but you've got Deron Davis, who's going to be gone after this season. You've got Joey Brunk, who's got 2 seasons left. 2 years from now, Trace Jackson Davis might be here, he might not. So to me, it's imperative that they get a big guy. But Archie's also been chasing a point guard for the last 2 years trying to get. And a text into the show asked, why is Archie changed? He talked about banking scholarships before, and as opposed to now, he's talking about oversigning. And personally, from the bad cop standpoint, it's because I think he says whatever fits it at the time. He couldn't get the scholarship filled last year, so of course he said he was going to bank it, which he did. But they just got to get better roster balance, I think, position-wise.
Yeah, I mean, that is you and I and the fans of the world trying to talk about basketball in the offseason, because, we're making up a problem, in my opinion, at that point, because all of this is going to change. I mean, you can say you're going to bank a roster, and all of a sudden you get a kid that wants to commit to you that you really, really want. Then obviously you're going to change, and you're going to, what you said yesterday might not be the case today. Not because you lied yesterday. It's just the changing times and the way that the kids change their minds all the time. And I don't know that we can look. We got to be pretty darn happy with the fact we've got Joey Brunk, who's got some college experience already and is older. And you and I heard Coach Miller talk about, his importance in the locker room. And so that's awesome. And then Trace Jackson Davis, I mean, how can we be possibly looking at it as a negative that he might be gone in 2 years. If that's the case, then he's going to have had a heck of a 2 years with us, and we should be looking at a lot of good stuff that's happened during that time, and that'll help you recruit. If you got a guy who has the ability to go get drafted in the first couple of, the first 15 picks of the draft, and he's a 6'10" or 11 guy, you're going to be able to recruit more 6'10" or 11 guys. And I don't think we can look at that as a negative. I don't think we can worry about planning down the road right now. I know they have to plan that. They have to be recruiting those guys. They're recruiting kids that are in the 7th and 8th grade right now. But I don't think we can look at it as we've got a roster void or something to fill, because right now I think if Trace Jackson Davis pans out the way that he, in all of our minds, should, then they're going to be pretty set for the next 2 years in the 4-5 position at IU, with Joey Brunk having 2 years and him being here for a couple of years. So those guys, if they do what you just said and they get drafted 2 years from now, that's only going to help spawn the recruiting and bring guys in that they want to bring in. And so I don't see how that could be anything other than a positive.
See, that's why we have the Todd father on, so he can set it straight.
Just say you're always right, Todd. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear.
That's basically what I'm saying without saying it.
Yeah.
You are the man. What's going on this weekend with the Todd father?
My better half at home, Jessica, is obviously a University of Georgia graduate, and we have our first real big football game of the year this weekend. So yes, I'm an IU fan and I love IU football, but in my household, I have to wear Georgia red and black on big game days. So I'll be supporting Georgia versus Notre Dame this weekend.
Yeah, that's a big matchup, man. Georgia's number 3 in the country. Notre Dame, number 7. Notre Dame maybe, I don't know if they're overrated a little bit, but
neither one of them
may
played
be the
anybody,
best
so
team
you really
in the
can't
SEC.
tell. Yeah, you can't tell how either one of them really are. They've not played anybody yet. So, they're going off a preseason ranking right now, which I know you have to do that. I just don't put a whole lot of stock into that. It's in Athens. That should give Georgia the advantage, but you never know in these games. That's why college football and college basketball to me are the best, because it's fun to look forward to that. And I'm just a sports nerd when it comes to this stuff, and I love looking forward to it all day today and tomorrow. I'll be nervous for Georgia, and I have no reason to love Georgia other than Jessica makes me all the time. So,
well, there could be at least she didn't go to Vanderbilt.
That's a great point. That's an excellent, or Ohio State. Should have gone to Ohio State. This would be a long distance relationship.
Oh man, Todd and Larry, brother, I appreciate you. Love you to death. Thank you so much, man. Look forward to talking to you and seeing you soon.
Yep, me too. See you, buddy.
Have a good one. There's the Todd father, Todd Leary, joining us as he does each and every Friday, man. It's always the fun part. Hey, we got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Stay tuned. Back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, of course, coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios here on this Monday, September 23rd. Hope you had a great weekend. Time to get the week started. Got a great program for you today. Don Fischer's coming up, the voice of the Hoosiers. He joins us in the next hour. Along with Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier, we'll be talking about Indiana football's win over UConn over the weekend, 38-3 there. You got a lot of basketball coming up, some visits that happened, that are happening. We'll get caught up with that with Mike Schumann. I think Bryce Hopkins may have been in on a visit. Desan Diarra, I think, is coming in on a visit. You got all kinds of guys coming and going. Archie Miller, he spoke to BTN. The BTN tailgate was in town over the weekend for football. Jake, I'm not sure if you have that, but let's hear what Archie, when he got to talk to Michelle McMahon from the BTN crew, hear how that went.
Joining us now to talk about it all is their head coach, Archie Miller. Coach, these fans supporting you through and through. Why should they be excited about Hoosier hysteria, first things first?
It's a great kickoff to college basketball, but it's also a great kickoff to our season here in Bloomington. And the fans who come out created an incredible environment. Everybody who's there always has a great time, and it's important for our players, to feel good when things get started.
And speaking of Hoosier hysteria and these fan support, Calbert Cheney is going to be recognized at that event. I know you also recognized another Indiana men's basketball great, Eric Anderson, last night. So what does that say about the tradition, about Indiana men's basketball, and what it's been like for you to be a part of this great tradition?
Well, it's a great responsibility to represent, our former players, our traditions, to the fullest. And it was great to get Eric into the Hall of Fame last night. His son did a great job introducing him. Eric was a really good friend to me when I first got here, and tragically lost him last December, so it was nice to honor him. And Calbert going into the College Basketball Hall of Fame in November is that's no small feat. He's one of the Big Ten's great players, still the all-time leading scorer, and to have he and his family here for us on that weekend is great to honor him, and for our fans to get a chance to see him again is going to be great.
Perfect way to start the season. What gives you the most excitement and optimism about this year's Indiana men's basketball team?
Well, we have a lot of guys back, that played significant minutes, some of our younger players, and we have some new additions that I think are really going to help us, and we have a deep team, so knock on wood, hopefully we stay healthy like everybody wants to, but I think we have a group that's really committed, and they like one another, and here early part of the season, there's some excitement within our office because we have a good group of kids.
And you also have a fan base that's committed. Fans, give it up for your men's basketball coach, Archie Miller. Coach, thanks.
Thank you.
There's Archie Miller talking to Michelle McMahon from the BTN crew as they were here doing the BTN tailgate event over the weekend. Pretty cool thing, kind of the college game day deal for the BTN. That was right outside of the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. So that was kind of cool that was going on. They also did a special on Raekwon Jones and last year and lose his family. Both his mother and father lost their homes in that hurricane. They also spoke with, I think it was Cody Miller, former IU swimmer who was on the one of the relays with Michael Phelps at the Olympics. So a lot of IU flavor, man, a lot of IU good stuff going on there over the weekend. We also got to talk to Coach Tom Allen after the game to see what he had to say about how he saw things in the UConn win. It was definitely a different performance, a better performance by the Hoosiers. Jake, I'm not sure if you have Coach Allen. Okay. But Coach Allen was obviously a lot happier this week than last week, of course, with that loss. But even with the win the week before that with Eastern Illinois, this was a better team effort. You didn't see as many mistakes made, and that's extraordinarily important because this team was making some mistakes they didn't need to be making. But let's hear what Coach Allen had to say.
All right. Just good to bounce back from last week's performance, and thought our guys responded the way I hoped they would and the way I saw them practice all week and how we executed. So just really, really proud of our team. You know, it's a thing that we taking care of business, our non-conference schedule, and then now getting ready to play the rest of our season in conference play. So it's very important for us to run the football better today, continue to improve our defense, and got a pick six, those are hard to get and fun to get. So really we're excited for Cam for that, but the pressure caused that. And really defense, the only points they gave up were off that our first initial fumble and held them to a field goal. So really they were 3 of 14 on fourth downs, and we were on third downs, and we were 8 for 10. So just did a good job of establishing some things that we needed to do and executing properly and getting a very important win for us. So they're all important, but taking care of business and a team that we needed to, and that's what you do. And now you get ready to move forward into conference play. So questions?
There was Coach Tom Allen. We also got to hear from, you didn't get to yet. Cam Jones. Cam Jones got the Indiana defense back on track in the turnover department. Nice 44-yard interception return to the house for a touchdown. They haven't done that in a year, a pick six. So it was nice to not only see that defense get back on track, getting a turnover, but in a big way, taking it back the other way. Let's hear what Cam Jones had to say.
Takeaways have been made a big issue for you guys. You've gotten away from it for a couple of games, but you get back into it big time with that. What does that do for your defense going forward to this season? Jump-started.
It builds momentum for our defense, and also it pumps up our offense. It let them know that we got their back, and they got our back. So we're going to keep emphasizing takeaways every single game, every single practice. It's something that we take great.
The key to follow up on a performance like this heading into next week, what's the key to do that, to be that consistent?
Stay focused, confident, communication, lead our defense. We know we got a big game coming up, and we can't wait to get after them.
That was Cam Jones, who made the big play on the defense this weekend, a 44-yard interception return for a touchdown, a pick six. Good deal for them. I think that made the score 23-7 at that time. Indiana, or 3 rather. They only scored 3. And you know what? They wouldn't have scored those 3 points had it not been for an Indiana turnover. Peyton Hendershot fumbles the ball early in the first quarter, or I forget, or maybe around the 38-yard line, I think, or 48-yard line. I can't remember exactly where it was, but they only managed 15 yards. But it was close enough to get within field goal range where they knocked down a field goal. The only points they scored the game. Indiana would have had their second shutout of the season had that not happened, unfortunately. But a good job overall by the defense. They just didn't give up hardly any yards. They just did a phenomenal job defensively. I mean, the numbers bear it out. Total rushing yards, 51. Total passing yards, 94. They did just a really good job. Penalties, they had 5 for Indiana, had 5 for 45 yards. They didn't do a bad job there either. I got to be honest with you. So a much better performance overall. Yeah, the talent level that they're going against is hugely different than the week before, but nobody's going to face that kind of talent again. That's the best team in the Big Ten, bar none, although Wisconsin is looking pretty good in that Western Conference. And, hey, how about Michigan? What the hell's going on up there, buddy? What's next for Jim Harbaugh? Woohoo! Wisconsin manhandled Michigan and Harbaugh. Absolutely just shut them down. And I'm looking forward down the road. What in the world's Ohio State going to do to Michigan? He's never beaten Michigan since he's been there. I'm sure that the natives are getting restless. What's that? That's what I meant to say. He's never beaten Ohio State since he's been there. They're not happy. And this was supposed to be the season. Everybody labeled Michigan as the team to beat. Well, guess who the team to beat is turning out to be? That team to the south that they can't stand saying. It is not looking good in Ann Arbor. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying they're going 3-7 or 3-9 and not making a bowl game, but they want to win the Big Ten. They want to be in the Big Ten championship and fighting for that ain't happening. That's not happening this year. I don't see that. Wisconsin just kicked their crap out of them. And they have not impressed me in any game that they've played thus far. Tim Texas up says, does Coach Allen keep the QB decision on who starts until just before the game time? So Michigan State has to prepare for Ramsey Penix. That's pretty much exactly what I said earlier. That's exactly what I would do. I mean, this is a different scenario than the weeks past when I'll be honest with you, they misled us about the injury and trying to do that before Ohio State. But it wouldn't have mattered against Ohio State, guys. You didn't have a chance in that game. Not a chance. But if that's me, that's exactly what I do. Michigan State doesn't know who they're preparing for. But I think that they're not really that worried if it's Peyton Ramsey because it plays into their wheelhouse. They want a short yardage game. They want to keep the field very short. That's right into to what they want. So I think they prepare for both. But I would absolutely. That's why I said the press conferences later on today, I'm not even going to ask the question. I know somebody else will, but I'm not even going to ask the status on Penix. There's no point in it because if I'm Tom Allen at this stage, I'm not telling. And now I don't blame him now. And again, in this scenario, I don't blame him at all. I wouldn't either. I would use every advantage I could because they're going to need it. This is a stern test. It's on the road. It's Indiana's first true road game. You know, they went up to Indianapolis to play Ball State, but that's not really a road game. But we'll certainly see what goes on with that. They've got to have Michael Penix to win that game, I can tell you that. And those games they're only going to last so long. They don't have a lot of tape on Penix to watch. He hasn't even played a game and a half this season. Very little last season. They don't have a lot of tape on him. They know what they know what Ramsey is. They got all season last year on him. They played him. They played him for 2 years. They know what Ramsey is. They have not experienced the one thing that is their kryptonite, an arm like Michael Penix. They're one of the best defensive fronts going, Michigan State, but their secondary is not up to that same level. And that's an advantage for Indiana if they can use that advantage, if they can get to that. You know, Indiana lost Coy Cronk, and that's going to be a dangerous loss in East Lansing. For the game, they moved Jones over to the left side. Not sure what they're going to do. Matthew Bedford is someone who they wanted to bring along. He may be brought along a lot faster than what was anticipated. And unfortunately, there goes a redshirt season for that young man. We'll see how that turns out. We'll see how it turns out for the Hoosiers. They're going to have to get in line quickly because this is going to be a test that they don't face again. They have a bye the following week. Then they have a lesser opponent after that. This is one they've got to get through. And if you want to know the truth, I know that that's going to weigh in on the Penix decision. Unfortunately, they can only win this game with Michael Penix, in my opinion. But then again, you have a bye the week after that. So if he's not completely healthy, they don't play him. And I don't know where he is in his rehab. Absolutely none. I have no idea. I can tell you that in watching him Saturday in warm-ups, he was dressed but did not throw a single ball. So they are resting him. And in hopes, I know that they hope he can go this Saturday. Only the Indiana staff knows that that's even a possibility at this point. It may be already be determined that it's not. I don't know. We don't know, and we won't know. They're not going to tell us at this stage, and I don't blame them. Hence why I'm not even going to bother to answer the question today. We'll certainly see. I mean, I know a lot of people are seeing Peyton Ramsey's numbers and go, well, look at that. Well, it's misleading. Yeah, you're 23 of 27 because you're only throwing 5, 6, 7-yard passes. The longest pass of the day was a 25-yarder, and that was actually probably a 20-yard pass because Donovan Hill was wide open, literally wide open, standing alone by himself on the sideline downfield. And it didn't result in a touchdown only because he was standing, because the pass, he had to wait for the pass. Had he been led, that's a touchdown. But it's something that Indiana's going to have in East Lansing. They're going to have that in any game, to be honest with you, going forth. I'm not sure that, we saw advances in the running game, but I want to see some breakaway speed, man. I want to see a breakaway play. You've got to have big plays in a game. You've got to have chunk yardage plays, and Indiana's just not getting that. Of course, they got that under Michael Penix. Hopefully they can hopefully they get Michael Penix back, and this is all moot. Doesn't matter. But I think it's a game Indiana can win. I still do, man. I still do. Although Michigan State looked a lot better this weekend. I'm not an Antonio fan. Not an Antonio fan at all. But we got a lot more coming up here on the program. The next hour, Don Fischer is going to join me, as will Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier. We'll hear from some of the IU football players over the weekend talking about Coy Cronk. We'll hear from Coach Tom Allen. We got a lot more to get to. Stay tuned, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome aboard to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Monday, September 23rd. Jim Coyle with you as always. Jake's at the wheel, keeping us on the track. A lot to get to on the program today, as always. Our good friend, the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, on the program. We'll talk about this past weekend's big win for the football program over at UConn, 38-3, and a little basketball. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier on as well. We're going to talk a little bit more basketball with him, as a lot of visits are have happening this weekend, next weekend. A lot going on there in the recruiting world, but we'll talk some more about the Indiana's football win also there. As I mentioned, Hassan Diarra, I think, is coming in this weekend for a visit. Bryce Hopkins, I believe, was in for an unofficial over the weekend. He's in the 2021 class. We'll talk more about that with Mr. Mike Schumann. IU football, of course, a big win over the weekend. The soccer team, men's soccer, got a win on Friday to open up Big Ten play. I know the women's volleyball program went down to Tampa over the weekend. They picked up 3 wins, 2 of them over South Florida, and they beat Stetson. They're like 11-2 on the season right now. Going into, I think they have one more non-conference match coming up before they hit Big Ten play. So congratulations to Steve Aird and that program, as they're rolling, man. They're rolling. But the football program, a 38-3 win over UConn over the weekend as they get ready to go back to Big Ten play this weekend as they head to East Lansing. It was a good way to get that offense cured a little bit without Michael Penix in there. Peyton Ramsey goes 23 of 27 for 247 yards. A good day for him. But, of course, we'll see as things pick up speed a little bit this weekend. But a huge loss for Indiana as well as they lose Coy Cronk, one of their anchors on that offensive line, a veteran. But let's hear what Tom Allen had to say about the win overall.
All right. Just good to bounce back from last week's performance, and thought our guys responded the way I hoped they would and the way I saw them practice all week and how we executed. So just really, really proud of our team. You know, it's a thing that we taking care of business, our non-conference schedule, and then now getting ready to play the rest of our season in conference play. So it's very important for us to run the football better today, continue to improve our defense, and got a pick six, which is those are hard to get and fun to get. So really we're excited for Cam for that, but the pressure caused that. And really defense, the only points they gave up were off that our first initial fumble and held them to a field goal. So really they were 3 of 14 on fourth downs, and we were on third downs, and we were 8 for 10. So just did a good job of establishing some things that we needed to do and executing properly and getting a very important win for us. So they're all important, but taking care of business and a team that we needed to, and that's what you do. And now you get ready to move forward into conference play. So questions?
There's Coach Tom Allen talking about the big win over UConn. And you heard him talking about defensively getting that pick six. Cam Jones, what a great job. The first pick six for Indiana in over a year as he takes one back to the house. 44 yards for that Hoosier defense. Let's hear what Cam Jones had to say about that.
Takeaways have been made a big issue for you guys. You've gotten away from it for a couple of games, but you get back into it big time with that. What does that do for your defense going forward to this season? Jump-started.
It builds momentum for our defense, and also it pumps up our offense. It let them know that we got their back, and they got our back. So we're going to keep emphasizing takeaways every single game, every single practice. It's something that we take great.
The key to follow up on a performance like this heading into next week, what's the key to do that, to be that consistent?
Stay focused, confident, communication, lead our defense. We know we got a big game coming up, and we can't wait to get after them.
Linebacker Cam Jones on his 44-yard pick six over the weekend. But the entire offense was clicking a little bit better. The offensive line, although it took a major hit with the loss of Coy Cronk, they had the best running day that they have had this season. Stevie Scott almost got a 100-yard rushing day, which is unbelievable for me to think I'm still saying that 4 games in, that he is still yet to have one of those. But 97 yards on 21 carries for Stevie Scott. Let's hear what Stevie had to say about his game.
You talk about the rhythm, getting the carries early, too. I mean, I think it was like 6 carries on the first touchdown drive. How much does that even kind of wear on the defense later when you establish it?
Right. Well, just you got to be able to run the ball at this level, So, just, wearing on the defense and just opening up the passing game, that's just something that, that we like to do. So I feel like, like you said, just what we did in the first quarter, just wearing them down for that first touchdown, that's just something that we've been working on and trying to improve so we can get those explosive plays.
There's Stevie Scott getting in on the action, too. You heard me talk about Indiana losing Coy Cronk. What a major loss. They're already thin on offensive line. You don't have a ton of experience and a ton of talent that's ready to go there. But Coy Cronk, one of their co-captains, one of their anchors, he was a senior. Unfortunately, he goes down with an undisclosed injury at this time, but it is not believed to be good. It's never good when you get carted off the field. But Peyton Ramsey was talking about the loss of one of his front men after the game. Let's hear what Peyton had to say.
What was Coy's message when he's in the stretcher there, ready to, after he got hurt, and what was he telling you guys?
Yeah, I mean, Coy, it's sad. It's sad to see, obviously, but he's just such a hard-working guy. I didn't obviously get the chance to talk to him individually, but just his leadership, just that kind of persona that he has, the toughness piece. I think it kind of spread throughout the whole team when we all saw him, going off the field.
It was quarterback Peyton Ramsey and also Nick Westbrook, who had a touchdown on the day behind the blocking of that offensive line. He talks about losing a fellow fifth-year guy or a fellow senior in Coy Cronk.
Nick, when you see a guy like Coy Cronk that you've been with for so long go down, and how does that impact you as a team?
We just rally behind it. It sucks because we know how much he loves his team and how much he's put into, to be a leader on this team. It just really hurt, but at that point now we're playing for him, and so this season goes out to him now. And, when we came in at halftime, he was right there, casted up in the boot, just in the locker room, dapping everybody up because he knew, it's way bigger than just him. And so he's like, I'm just here for the team. And he's going to lead, in a different role now.
What did he say when he was on the stretcher there? He was looking very animated talking.
Yeah, he was just saying, keep fighting, boys, fight for me, just get this win and we'll be good.
What does that do to your mentality, the team's mentality, when you have a guy go down like that, but he's telling you to keep fighting for him?
It's huge. It makes it, you have way more to play for. And that's kind of what Coach talked about. Coach DeBoer and Coach Allen both talked about it before the game to us, is think about who you have back home that you're playing for, because you play way harder and you have a lot more passion. You fight a lot harder when it's not just about you. And so when he went down, it just took that to a whole nother level from where we already had going into the start of the game.
There's Nick Westbrook, senior fifth-year wide receiver there, talking about the loss of another senior in Coy Cronk on that offensive line. That's a tough blow for that team. They're going to have to man up and get the next man up, without doubt, as they head up north to East Lansing this week and going against a team who specializes in dismantling offensive lines. They have one of the best run defenses in the country. Fortunately for Indiana, the pass defense is not at the same level. So if Indiana can manage to keep them at bay and get the pass game going, I think they have a shot in this game, but I think it's going to take having a Michael Penix, a quarterback, so you can stretch that defense, because if you don't, you're going to leave Michigan State in the position they want to be in with a very short field, and they're pretty good at chewing you up in a situation like that. But we'll have to wait to find out what Michael Penix's status is. It's to the point, though, that if I'm Tom Allen, I got to be honest with you, I'm not telling you. I'm not telling Michigan State. They have to prepare for both quarterbacks that way, which they probably say that they are, and maybe they are, but I'm not going to take any chances. I'm going to guarantee you that they are. They know what Peyton Ramsey looks like. They've seen him for 2 years, and they've got plenty of tape on him. They don't have much tape on Michael Penix. So there's that, and I give that to them. Also involved in the football this past week, it was Archie Miller, the Indiana men's basketball coach, as he was interviewed on the BTN tailgate program that was in Bloomington just before the UConn game. Let's hear what Archie had to say.
Joining us now to talk about it all is their head coach, Archie Miller. Coach, these fans supporting you through and through. Why should they be excited about Hoosier hysteria, first things first?
It's a great kickoff to college basketball, but it's also a great kickoff to our season here in Bloomington. And the fans who come out created an incredible environment. Everybody who's there always has a great time, and it's important for our players feel good when things get started.
And speaking of Hoosier hysteria and these fan support, Calbert Chaney is going to be recognized at that event. I know you also recognized another Indiana men's basketball great, Eric Anderson, last night. So what does that say about the tradition, about Indiana men's basketball, and what it's been like for you to be a part of this great tradition?
Well, it's a great responsibility to represent, our former players, our traditions, to the fullest. And it was great to get Eric into the Hall of Fame last night. His son did a great job introducing him. Eric was a really good friend to me when I first got here, and tragically lost him last December, so it was nice to honor him. And Calbert going into the College Basketball Hall of Fame in November is that's no small feat. He's one of the Big Ten's great players, still the all-time leading scorer, and to have he and his family here for us on that weekend is great to honor him, and for our fans to get a chance to see him again is going to be great.
Perfect way to start the season. What gives you the most excitement and optimism about this year's Indiana men's basketball team?
Well, we have a lot of guys back, that played significant minutes, some of our younger players, and we have some new additions that I think are really going to help us, and we have a deep team, so knock on wood, hopefully we stay healthy like everybody wants to, but I think we have a group that's really committed, and they like one another, and here early part of the season, there's some excitement within our office because we have a good group of kids.
And you also have a fan base that's committed. Fans, give it up for your men's basketball coach, Archie Miller. Coach, thanks.
Thank you.
There was Archie Miller's appearance on the BTN Tailgate show that took place before Indiana's noon kickoff against UConn last weekend. That was the BTN's game day type situation. They also did a feature on Raekwon Jones and what he went through last year and his family in that hurricane. So if you get a chance, go back and watch that. Also, Cody Miller, I think, with the IU swimmer, was on that program as well. So it's a great commercial for Indiana athletics. So go back and check that out if you have the chance. Hey, we got a lot more coming up on the program here today. The great one, Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers. He joins me next here on Indiana Sports Beat. Then after that, you got Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier. Stay tuned. Plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more right after this.
So keep on pushing.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Speed Radio, of course, coming to you from the Golf Club here at Eagle Point Studios in Bloomington. Hope you all have had a great weekend. Well, if not, we're about to lighten your week up with the great voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer. Don, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Jim. Thank you.
Absolutely. I hope you had a great weekend. Of course, it's a lot easier when you have start off with a win on that weekend, which the Hoosiers did for this weekend.
Well, there's no question. Obviously, Indiana needed to bounce back from the Ohio State performance a week ago, and I thought they really played well on Saturday. What I liked about what I saw, the two improvements that I saw that were pretty dramatic, the defense really played their best football game of the season, in my opinion. They tackled well. They got a turnover for a touchdown with Cam Jones's interception. They just seem to be more sound in this ball game than they have in any game thus far this season. Not so many. There weren't very many missed tackles in this contest. They just seem to be more aware of where they were at and were in the right spots and did the things that they were capable of doing. And then the other thing, they actually established an offensive run game for the first time this year, running for 178 yards. Stevie Scott got on track. He had 21 carries, almost got 100 yards himself with 97 net, averaged 4.6 yards per carry. I just thought that was really important to get the running game going. But it also brings up the negative that happened in this ball game as well at the offensive line position with Coy Cronk going down with what looked to be a major injury, and still we think probably it could be season-ending, but I've got nothing official on that. But the way they carted him off and got the card out there immediately once the injury occurred, you could tell this was a very serious situation. Whether it's knee or ankle, we don't know that just yet. But we'll find more out about that here in the next probably 6 or 7 hours because the press conferences take place late this morning and early this afternoon. And I'm sure Tom Allen will reveal what the situation is with Coy. I'm not very optimistic about it being a favorable conclusion.
Yeah, and you hate to see that any injury with any kid, but especially when they're a senior. Fortunately, Coy has the opportunity to maybe come back for a redshirt season if that turns out to be the case. But, man, you just hate to see because you know how hard they've worked for 4 years, 5 years. You know how hard they've worked through fall camp, and you're just now getting into the season, and it just stinks in any way. But especially when it's not only a senior, but he's a co-captain. He's an anchor for this line and for this team.
Yeah, you very arguably say that he was the best offensive lineman on this ball club, the most veteran certainly. I think he missed one game as a starter prior to that in his career. This guy started as a true freshman. So you got to look at it from the standpoint, it's just heartbreaking for him to be a senior on this football team, to be a co-captain, and then to go down with an injury like this if it in fact is season-ending. And I don't know what his status will be until we hear today, but I think we're all praying for Coy, and hopefully it's not as serious as what it looked like on Saturday.
On the other side of the coin, Peyton Ramsey having a really good day. He went 23 of 27, another very efficient day with 247 yards. A lot of receivers getting the ball, and like you said, the offense just itself with the running game getting on track, with Stevie Scott getting those 97 yards. They looked a lot more balanced and efficient and effective.
There's no question about that. Peyton Hendershot has been a real shot in the arm, if you'll excuse the pun, based on his performances so far this year. Made some really nice catches again, had another touchdown thrown to him. Ty Freifogel made his presence felt for the first time this year in a significant way with 5 catches as well. Wap Fillier, of course, he's the speed guy, and every time he touches the football, he's a threat to go the distance. So they've got some guys that are really stepping up in that area as well. I just like what I saw overall in this football game. The offense looked cohesive. The defense did its job and probably played their best ball game of the season. Didn't miss many tackles, forced a turnover with that interception. That's something that does have to get better, I think, still with this ball club. They've only got 2 picks and I think 1 fumble recovery so far this year. So they're really down in the numbers game as far as turnover ratio is concerned. That's got to pick up, and hopefully it gets better. And I guess maybe the best news of all is that despite the fact that Michael Penix has been out for 2 ball games now, you've got a veteran like Peyton Ramsey, who has been a winner since he's been at Indiana. He's done a tremendous job as a starting quarterback, and you've got a guy like that you can call on to pick up the slack when your starting quarterback is on the bench with an injury. So I think this team has the tools to really be a good football squad as the season progresses. I think they played their best football game this past Saturday. After 4 starts, certainly it was up and down in the beginning, The game against Eastern Illinois is almost an outlier because it was just such a bad football team that they played. The game against Ohio State might be the same thing, an anomaly because of how good Ohio State is and how poorly Indiana performed in that situation. But this past week against UConn, you could say they probably showed themselves a little bit more in this game than they have in any game this year.
I agree with you, Don. That team was one that gave Indiana a little bit more of a test, and both defensively and offensively they came through. And not only that, it's giving Peyton Ramsey a little bit of opportunity to get more in sync since he had not been taking all those number one snaps. And then another thing, Michigan State, they have absolutely no idea who to prepare for, whether it's Michael Penix or Peyton Ramsey. And I think that's a very good thing for Indiana.
Well, I think they always, and I think most coaches do this, and I've heard a lot of guys talk about this. When Ryan Day was asked who he thought Indiana was going to start in that ball game against Ohio State, he said it doesn't matter, we prepared for both of them. So I think most coaches, they're not dumb guys. They pretty much know what's going on in regard to who the quarterback might or would be, and they prepare, get their football team ready for everybody. The real key in this game against Michigan State, couple of things. Number one, it's Indiana's first true road game of the year. They played at Lucas Oil Stadium against Ball State, felt like a home game. Yeah, they traveled up to Indianapolis the night before and all those kinds of things, but it still wasn't a true road game. I don't think that anybody felt that. They're going to feel like this is a true road game when they go to Michigan State on Saturday, when they head up to East Lansing. They're going to face one of the best defenses in the country, a team that's giving up less than 180 yards a game of total offense to their opponents. They have dominated everybody from a defensive standpoint that they've played. Tulsa, Western Michigan, Arizona State did beat them, but it was a 10-7 score. And, of course, last week against Northwestern, their offense kicked in, and Brian Lewerke had a great ball game at quarterback, and Elijah Collins is a really good running back that's solidified their run game with Connor Hayward in the backfield. And they've got a receiver, Darryl Stewart, who has just been tremendous. He's got 30 catches already. They go to him early and often, and he is a real weapon for them. So it's going to be a real test for this Indiana football team, and I'm looking forward to it because I do think that the Ohio State game was a bit of an anomaly, and we're going to find out if it was truly that or if this Indiana football team is going to struggle even more. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I think the good news is this is such a young team, Jim, that this team is progressing. And that's what you want to see as you go along. Can they make improvements? They certainly did on Saturday against UConn. They certainly ran the ball better, and the defense, I thought, played their best game of the season. So if they can continue to make those kinds of improvements week in and week out, this will be a really good football team by season's end.
Absolutely, and you could actually see that on the field Saturday. You could see they weren't missing tackles. They weren't giving up large chunks of plays. They were doing what they were supposed to do, covering their assignments. Tywan Mullen, a freshman who's just getting better and better every game on that young defense. So you can see the progress coming if you pay attention, without doubt.
Yep, I think the real question mark now is the offensive line because of the Kronk injury. What they do there, we knew going in that this was going to be a depth issue with the offensive line this year. They weren't very deep. Matthew Bedford, a true freshman, came in and played some this past Saturday because of Kronk's injury. They did move Caleb Jones over to the left tackle position to protect the blind side for Peyton Ramsey after the injury to Kronk. Devondre Love came in as a senior and played at that right tackle spot. They still moved the ball on the ground some after Kronk's injury, so that's a positive. But the real question mark is the offensive line more than anything else in this football team, in my opinion. If they're going to progress and be as good as we hope that they're going to be, they've got to take steps in that department. They've got to get better each and every week that they play. They've got to develop some depth there, too. I'm not quite sure what the injury with Kronk is going to do in that department. If Bedford's going to be the only guy that can step up. Love obviously has come in there and did play this past week. Hopefully those things kind of figure themselves out to some degree. But I think the offensive line coach, Mr. Hiller, has got his work cut out for him.
Absolutely, and a game this week in which I think that Indiana actually has a chance in this game because while Michigan State is without doubt one of the best defenses Indiana will face this season, especially against the run, Indiana excels on the passing side, and if they can get that game going, that may loosen that defense up and give Indiana an opportunity to do something special up in East Lansing.
Well, that's right. And the question now is, will Penix be ready? If he is ready, will he be back as the starter, or will Peyton Ramsey? Because Ramsey obviously has done a pretty good job here in the first 2 weeks that he's been the starter. The good news is, like I said before, they've got two really quality quarterbacks. And I think Jack Tuttle is going to be really good as well at some point. He just hasn't had the same opportunity as the other two guys have. But at any rate, they've got two very quality quarterbacks at this juncture. And you're going to have to prepare for both, and I think that is a positive.
We're getting ever increasingly close to basketball season, Don. Will you be pulling double duty? Archie Miller got involved Saturday. The BTN tailgate was in town, and he was over there, was a guest on that show talking. But, man, it's right around the corner, Hoosier Hysteria and Media Days next week, and it's almost here.
It is. There's no question. Basketball, of course, has always been the big story at Indiana. And I think this year there are real question marks for this basketball team, just like there have been for this football team. And after last year, you know that there are question marks because of the struggles that they had in Big Ten play with those 12 losses and 13 ball games. That was just disastrous for that ball club. However, this coach is a really good basketball coach. Archie Miller, I think, does a tremendous job. I still think that there are things that have got to be fixed with this ball club. And the only thing that fixes some of those things are recruiting. And I do think he got a couple of really outstanding players to come in this year. Trace Jackson Davis, Mr. Basketball in the state, I think is a fabulous talent. Armand Franklin, I think, is probably better than a lot of people know about. At the same time, they can't do it all. And, of course, they got transfer Joey Brunk in as well from Butler. I think he's going to add something to this ball club also. So we'll just have to wait and see how it all fits together and how they look as the season begins back in November. But, you know, right now, all we have to worry about right now is the football team because they're the only ones playing for real.
Yeah, and I know the fans love it because they get a double dose of Don Fischer, but how difficult is it when it's this overlap part of the season, when you got to work on football and basketball because there's so much information to digest?
Well, I don't know how tough it is because I've been doing it for so long. It just kind of seems natural. But it is a busy time. There's no question about that. We'll have probably 8 or 9 basketball games with 4 football games and 8 talk shows, all those kinds of things in the month of November alone. It is a lot of preparation time, but you kind of get used to it in some respects. The bad news is that it does provide some conflict situations where you can't do everything, and that's what really ticks me off because I always want to do every basketball game and every football game and every coach's show. Those are the jobs that I like the best and the things that I do the most of. And unfortunately, we're going to get a game or two this year that I can't do because of the conflicts that football and basketball running the same month put forth. So it's just difficult sometimes in that regard.
And I know as a fan, there's nothing more disappointing than tuning in an IU game and not hearing Don Fischer doing it. It doesn't matter what kind of a game it is. You want to hear Don doing the game. Don, I can't thank you enough, man.
It's nice of you to say. I appreciate that. But we have good subs in there. Greg Murray does a great job when he takes over. He does the women's basketball games for Indiana and does a terrific job when he subs in for us as well. But more than anything else, it's just selfish on my part because I want to do them all.
Yeah, well, the fans want you. Don't worry. But Don, thank you so much, brother. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you at the press conference later today.
All right, thanks, Jim.
You bet. That's the great Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily.
Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Duckett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Monday, September 23rd. Joined now by our friend Mike Schumann from TheDailyHoosier.com. Michael, how are you?
Doing great, Jim. How are you?
Good. Big weekend, a heavy weekend for IU Athletics. They had lots going on. Of course, the football big win, 38-3 over UConn. But also the Hall of Fame inductions. Eric Anderson, of course, headlining that posthumously, unfortunately. But the IU Athletics Hall of Fame inducting a few more people over the weekend, so that was good. And then soccer got underway last Friday with or whenever it was, opening up their Big Ten play with a win. So lots of good things going on. And, of course, getting back to football, 38-3 to win over UConn by the football squad, which was a good thing because it wasn't as big as I think it should have been. They beat the spread, which surprised me. But also they showed a little bit more consistency under the second week under Peyton Ramsey.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I think it's a lot of the same with Peyton Ramsey. It's kind of he is who we know him to be. The offense probably takes a step back, but at the same time, I mean, he was 23 for 27. That's a good day for anybody. And
that means your receivers are catching the ball.
Yeah, that's another thing too. But it does leave you wondering, looking forward, if he continues to be the guy. And I don't think anyone knows for sure where that's headed right now. But I don't know that Indiana has enough dynamic aspects to their offense to pull off any major upsets. I still feel like even though it looked really good, it's still kind of the same Indiana offense that we kind of got accustomed to last year with more, I hate to say dink and dunk, but that's a lot of what it is. And against Big Ten caliber opponents, those kind of passes get closed on pretty quickly and drives stall out.
Yeah, that's something I don't think will work against Michigan State because they excel in stopping the run, which means they like a short field. And if you're going to play in a short field, they're going to stop you most of the time. So you've got to have an offense like a Michael Penix-led offense that allows you to go over the top. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I don't think Indiana has a chance to win that game in East Lansing without Michael Penix. With him, I think they absolutely do because that will give Michigan State fits, and Indiana has the receivers to do it as well.
Yeah, that's kind of my sense as well. I mean, if Ramsey does end up playing, he is going to have to take shots because Michigan State's defense is very good. They close on the ball really quickly. It's just, you're in a tough road environment. You're just not going to be able to sustain drives the way they did on Saturday against a pretty bad UConn team, probably even worse than I thought they were after watching them play. But yeah, I mean, I think Penix just gives you so much more, not only throwing the deep ball, but finding the ability to get the ball into tight windows, which is really important in Big Ten play because the athletes, are so much better. The windows are so much smaller and you need an elite arm to get the ball into those windows. And, I don't know, obviously the coaching staff is, trying to, protect Penix. They're trying to kind of keep secret whatever's going on. But I thought it was interesting that in pregame warmups, he didn't even throw a football.
I don't think that I think that they're keeping him completely under wraps, for one thing. I think that this week Mark D'Antonio and Michigan State, they have no idea if they're preparing for Peyton Ramsey or for Michael Penix. And I know that question is going to come up today in the press conference. It'll probably come up Thursday in the press conference. And I got to be honest with you, if I'm Tom Allen, I'm saying it's day to day because I don't want them to know at this point. Use every bit of advantage you can because there's nothing in the Big Ten that says they have to disclose anything. And I'm not even going to worry about asking the question because if I'm Tom Allen, I'm not saying it.
Yeah, no, that's been their MO pretty much the last 2 weeks, and I fully expect you're right that they're going to try to do their best to continue to keep that under wraps. It is just interesting, though, that, if he's really not even still throwing the football and what we've been told thus far is it is day-to-day, it's a short-term thing, we're not concerned about it long-term. I think if that continues into Saturday and he doesn't play, then I think that story goes away because I think that's 3 straight games. That's you're getting into a substantial portion of the season, and it is a serious injury. So that's going to be something obviously to keep an eye on, and it would be disappointing because I do think as we're saying, Penix just gives you something different here. And these next 8 games, all Big Ten games, all teams, save for Rutgers, that I think Indiana is going to have to be on top of their game to win. It would be a disappointment to not have that extra aspect to your offense.
And a serious blow this weekend was the loss of Coy Cronk, one of Indiana's most veteran anchor linemen, co-captain on top of that. But that's a serious blow to lose a guy at a critical area where you're pretty thin already.
Yeah, I mean, just disappointing on so many levels. Obviously for the guy, I think you and I and everyone else met him at the Big Ten Media Day, and just a really neat guy, dynamic personality. You can tell everybody talks about him as a great leader on the team, and you can just interview him for a couple minutes and see why. I mean, he just has that persona about him. And then obviously, from just a talent perspective, I mean, this is an offensive line that, while we fully expected the starting 5 to be strong, they really haven't been all that great. Obviously, some of that's the defensive scheme that they're facing with opponents forcing them to beat them through the air. But by the same token, I think Indiana's offensive line hasn't been what we expected, and to lose their best player on the offensive line and now try to get into the depth there that I'm not really sure is there. But, obviously Devondre Love's going to get the shot there. Matthew Bedford's going to get the shot there, and we'll see how they do. But it was definitely an injury that they couldn't afford, and an injury that was really sad to see on a personal level.
Yeah, Indiana would rush for 178 yards in the UConn game, which is not bad. Stevie Scott almost gets his first 100-yard game of the season. Who in their right mind would have thought that at 4 games in that I would be saying Stevie Scott almost got his first 100-yard rushing game of the season after rushing for 1,100 yards last season. He 21 attempts, 97 yards and a touchdown this past weekend, his longest run of 10. I'll be honest with you, the most surprising thing for me is no one has busted a play. Not Stevie Scott, not Cole Guest, not Kenny Walker or Ronnie Walker, Ronnie Walker or even Samson James. I'm waiting for somebody to bust that big run, and that's not happening, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I couldn't tell you what the longest run of the season is, but I can't off the top of my head remember one more than 20. There's certainly been some big plays through the air and even running backs out of the backfield, like Ronnie Walker's touchdown against Eastern Illinois, but nothing just where they stack up at the line of scrimmage and try to run through you. So it's been concerning. Like you said, even when they put up decent numbers against UConn, it didn't feel like that Indiana's running game was by any means clicking. It was just more efficient and productive, but it wasn't a dominant effort by any stretch. So yeah, I could have never imagined that Stevie Scott would still be looking for a 100-yard game here going into week 5, especially with 3 of the 4 opponents that they've played here thus far. Because that was the thing with Scott last year, is he was putting up big numbers, against teams like Michigan and other opponents that you earn your yards, and the holes were there. So I guess part of what we should be looking back on last year and thinking is, hey, Wes Martin and Brandon Knight were pretty good on the offensive line.
And if you look down the receiving numbers, while I think there was 10 receivers that caught a pass, 9 of them from Peyton Ramsey. 23 passes total. Of those 23, only 3 of those came from combined Nick Westbrook and Donovan Hale, your downfield receivers, which tells you that all the balls are underneath. All those balls are going back for that average of that 6, 7, 8 yard average, which that's okay, but you need that deep threat, and they just don't have that deep threat right now.
Yeah, I would have thought that, with guys like Fillier and Westbrook, that in these first 4 games, you would have seen a lot more separation downfield. But I think to where you're going, I think you got to have a quarterback that is willing to look down the field. Some of it may be, DeBoer's scheme that we're just kind of growing accustomed to, with more, spreading the ball around, emphasizing the tight end, emphasizing backs out of the backfield a little bit more than maybe what we've seen in the past. But it is definitely a statistical aspect of this team so far that jumps out at you. Just, how the production is not really going to the guys that you would have expected, and it's very spread out so far.
The reason I bring that up is because in saying I think that they have a legitimate shot at Michigan State, but that's only if you have Michael Penix, because you can only beat them if you can get downfield. If a Nick Westbrook or a Donovan Hale, if he's having a big game, because the most yards by any of those 9 receivers that Peyton threw to that they had in a day was 47 yards that day. That means nobody's having a big day. They're catching a bunch of passes for 10 yards at a time. And again, that's okay, but that's not going to win you a game against a Big Ten opponent.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, the only other way they pull out a win like this Saturday is if the defense puts up a really special effort, or they get scores in multiple phases, like special teams, which we haven't seen here in a while. But the defense obviously did score on Saturday. So, the interesting thing, kind of transitioning to the defensive side of the ball, is obviously the opponent has been very different in the last 3 weeks, but you got two of the last 3 weeks where you've given up 3 points total and averaging about 130 yards a game in those 2 games, and then you got Ohio State where you give up 51 and get completely decimated. Now, again, the opponents couldn't be more different, but through the years with Indiana football, we've seen especially here in the last 5-6 years, we've seen IU play up to the level of their competition and play close against teams like Ohio State and Michigan, and really kind of play down to teams that they shouldn't have been so close with. So, the extremes that we've seen so far kind of leave me scratching my head and not really knowing what to expect in this Michigan State game on Saturday, especially from the defense.
Well, we'll certainly find out. Also, a lot going on the basketball side. I believe Hassan Diarra and Bryce Hopkins were both in for visits over the weekend at Bloomington. Is that right?
Hopkins was in for an unofficial visit. He's a guy out of Chicago, the Chicago area. It's class of 2021 kid. I believe he's around 6'7", pretty big sized kid. When I saw pictures of him, if you go to his Instagram account, you can see pictures of him in an Indiana jersey. He kind of looked a little bit like AJ Moye to me, like a very stout guy that is more of a stretch 3 or wing type guy with the size to play the 4. But just an unofficial, nothing too major there going on to the best of my knowledge. Diarra is coming in this coming weekend for an official visit, so this one's actually a really big deal. He's a point guard. He's a really tough, physical guy that can get to the rim and finish, plays really hard-nosed defense. So I think he's probably at this point, given the fact that he's taken an IU official visit this weekend, he's probably the top point guard in the class of 2020 on Indiana's board, topping Archie's wish list, really fitting the kind of the character and description of kind of guys he won with at Dayton, the back alley tough guys that have been missing from this Indiana roster, frankly, over the last few years. And I think that's going to be a really interesting one to watch. He was at Georgia this past weekend, ironically enough, visiting with Tom Crean down there and also down there in connection with that big Notre Dame football game. So, but he, to the best of my knowledge, he hasn't committed or anything coming out of that official visit. A lot of people think that Georgia was the team to beat going in. So Indiana, it looks like we'll get a shot to make an impression here, really more as a basketball school, and we'll see how important that is to DR as Indiana tries to round out that 2020 class.
Yeah, I brought this up last week, and I'm drawing a blank on the kid's name that went from Indianapolis North Central that went to Kansas State.
Yeah, it's Lawrence Central. Nigel Pack is his name.
How does he get away? As badly as Indiana needs a point, he didn't even get an offer. I really, that's just boggling my mind when you got one in your backyard that you need so desperately. For 2 years, you've been trying to fill a position, and he doesn't even get an offer.
Yeah, that one was surprising as well. I mean, I think, as you know, recruiting is, there's no science to it. It's, you're trying to, not over pursue guys that you're not quite ready to, and you're trying to get the best talents you can. And so I think they just waited too long. I think Indiana was interested in Pack. They were talking to him a little bit. They were kind of keeping the water warm, but they waited too long, and I think they were probably caught off guard because when he committed to Kansas State, I think for the most part that was a surprise for a lot of people, and so now, I mean, sitting here today, I think he's a guy that they would probably clearly like to have. He played much better over the course of the summer. I think he was one of the only people, if perhaps the only people, to record a triple-double during Nike EYBL AAU play. And he's a guy that's realistically got a shot to win Indiana Mr. Basketball this coming season. He's a guy that I think if we were sitting here today and he was uncommitted, Indiana would offer and they'd be pursuing pretty hard. I don't have any inside info that they're maybe behind the scenes still talking to the kid, but I think that would be prudent because I think that's a clear miss to your original point.
Absolutely. And then another question I have is they seem to be recruiting these 6'6", 6'7" kids at left and right. Like Indiana's going to become a if you took a photo of them here in a couple of years, they're going to look like they're all the same height.
Yeah. I mean, that's clearly what their 2020 class is right now. It's all those 6'4" to 6'7" kind of wing type guys, which are really, I think that's the direction of the game. But
they already have a roster full of those guys. Is my question.
Right.
I mean, I've been talking about this for a week or two. That I think that this roster is horribly unbalanced. As you look 2 years out, which you have to do, this roster's in deep trouble from a point guard standpoint, number one, but also from a big standpoint. They're going to have nothing but 6 guys that are between 6'4" and 6'7", and that's it.
Yeah, no, it certainly has the potential to go that direction where you're imbalanced, and if Indiana signed anyone else in 2020 that fit that wing description that we're talking about here, it would be a complete head scratcher. I think it's point guard and big men all the way, the rest of the way, both in 2020 and for the most part 2021. Although I think you got maybe a little bit of leeway in 2021. Obviously, the headliner in that class is Christian Lander out of Evansville. I think Indiana's going to put everything they've got into landing that kid. He's the top player in the state, probably in any class right now. But I think they're going to also try to get a point guard in 2020 to balance out that aspect. And then it's got to be all bigs pretty much beyond that. You got Trey Kaufman who he's 6'7" as well, but I think he's a big kid that's going to be able to do a lot from a stretch 4 perspective. So, but where the 6'10", 7-foot guys are right now in the pipeline, that's a great question. I think they've got to see more along those lines here the rest of the way.
I agree absolutely, and we'll see how that works out. But do they have a chance to have a quote unquote headliner of this class? Because I'm not downplaying the kids that they've got; they're nice kids, but there's no headliner in that class. And to me, you should always have a headliner in a class.
Yeah, the guy that we're not talking about here that I think Indiana does have a realistic shot about is Dawson Garcia. Class of 2020, 6'10", not a traditional post player, more of a ball handling, perimeter shooting guy that can score around the rim as well. So, he would be somebody that would give Indiana the length that we're talking about, and also would be the headliner of the class. He's right on the fringe of 5-star status, depending on which service you look at. He's within the top 30 on every service that I've looked at, and I think he's in it. Indiana's in his final 7. I think he's going to visit IU for an official visit here in the next month or two. And I think Indiana has a realistic shot, especially as you see, some of his other top suitors go ahead and sign people like North Carolina did last night. I think Indiana's going to have a shot there. And I think if you land a guy like Garcia, he's your headliner. If you land Garcia and Diarra in connection with this class, I think you've got a clear top 15, really high-profile class that can kind of change the narrative away from, the 2019 class, which didn't quite go as people had hoped.
I agree 1,000%. I think you got to land them, but I think if you do, you're right. It turns out to be a really, really good class. But Mike, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you. Make sure you check out the Daily Hoosier for all your free IU content. Until next week, man, we'll talk again.
All right, Jim. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot to Mike again for joining us here on the program today. Thanks for the great Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers as well. We'll be back tomorrow with Chronic Hoosier and everything else that's going on. But for Jake, and until then, I'm Jim Coyle from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat. I will see you on the radio.
Social disease, well then take your medicine. I